So, what if I told you that getting rich has way less to do with how smart you are and everything to do with how you behave? Today, we are diving deep into the surprising psychology behind money, and we're going to use some pretty powerful stories to see what really matters for financial success. All right, let's kick things off with a tale of two guys. On one side, you have Ronald Reed, a janitor, a gas station attendant. On the other, Richard Fiscone, a Harvard MBA, a top executive at Merrill Lynch. Now, just based on their resumes, you'd think you know exactly who ended up wealthier, right? Well, you'd be wrong. That $8 million. That's the fortune that Ronald Reed, the humble janitor, quietly built over his lifetime. And when he passed away, he left millions to his local hospital and library, absolutely shocking everyone who knew him. So how on earth does something like that happen? Let's unpack this financial paradox, because it reveals the first and maybe most important lesson about money. See, the finance executive, Richard Fiscone, he had it all. But he took on just immense debt to fund this crazy extravagant lifestyle, including a home that cost him over $90,000 a month just to maintain. So when the 2008 crisis hit, his high-leverage world just collapsed. He went bankrupt. It's a puzzle that goes against everything we're taught, isn't it? How does the janitor with zero training outperform the Ivy League financial pro? The answer isn't in their education or their experience. Nope, it's in their heads. And this brings us to the single most important skill when it comes to your money. And here it is. This is the core idea. We're taught to treat finance like it's physics, a world of rules and formulas. But it's not. It's psychology. It's driven by messy human stuff like emotions and ego. Ronald Reed's big advantage wasn't a spreadsheet. It was his patience, his frugality. And Richard Fiscone's downfall? That wasn't a bad formula. It was his greed and his overconfidence. That was the only difference that mattered. This quote just illustrates the point perfectly. Your intelligence doesn't matter one bit if you can't control your impulses. Fiscone's financial genius was completely wiped out by his behavior, while Reed's simple, patient behavior built a fortune. But behavior isn't the whole story. Even the absolute best financial habits are subject to these two powerful, invisible forces that can change everything in an instant: luck and risk. Think about Bill Gates for a second. Yeah, he was brilliant, he was hardworking, for sure, but he also had just an unbelievable stroke of luck. Back in 1968, he just happened to go to one of the only high schools on the entire planet that had a computer. Gates himself says that without this 1 in a million opportunity, there would be no Microsoft. That's the power of luck. It's this accidental force that is completely, totally outside of your control. But luck has a dark twin: risk. Gates' best friend back at Lakeside was a kid named Kent Evans. He was just as smart, just as ambitious, and they were literally planning on starting a company together. But he was killed in a mountaineering accident before he even graduated high school. Just think about the symmetry here. 1 in a million luck for Gates, 1 in a million risk for Evans. It's the exact same powerful force, just pointing in opposite directions. And this is so crucial because it proves our financial outcomes are never 100% our own doing. So the big takeaway here is to focus less on specific people's extreme success or failure and more on the broad patterns that you can actually control. Right. So since you can't rely on luck and you can't always dodge risk, your focus has to shift from getting rich to staying rich. And trust me, that requires a completely different mindset. Getting money often requires a ton of optimism and taking big risks. But keeping it, that requires the exact opposite. It demands humility and a healthy dose of paranoia, a deep awareness that your luck can turn on a dime and risk can strike at any moment. And that's a really difficult psychological flip, because the very same confidence that helps you get rich can become the arrogance that makes you lose it all. Now, a huge part of that humility is learning how to get the goalposts to stop moving. That dangerous desire for more is a trap. It's what pushed people like the billionaire Rajat Gupta and Bernie Madoff, who already had everything, to risk it all for money they absolutely, positively did not need. Warren Buffett said it best. They risked their freedom, their reputation, their families, things that are literally invaluable for an extra dollar that would not have meaningfully changed their lives one bit. It's just not a smart trade. It's foolish. Which brings us to the final and I think most important idea here. If it's not about having the fanciest car or the biggest house, then what is the ultimate goal of building wealth anyway? It's this. The greatest dividend that money pays is control over your own time, the ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want. That is the true definition of freedom. And look, this isn't just some feel-good sentiment. It's actually backed by science. Decades of psychological research, all summarized by Angus Campbell here, show that having a strong sense of control over your life is the single most reliable predictor of happiness, way more than your salary, the size of your house, or your job title. So let's bring it all together, shall we? The path to real wealth, it starts by understanding that your behavior matters a lot more than your intelligence. From there, you have to respect the super unpredictable roles of luck and risk, which means you've got to develop the humble skill set of staying wealthy, not just getting it. And what's the whole point of it all? To use that wealth to buy the most valuable asset in the world, control over your own time. So we'll leave you with this question to think about, because truly answering it is the first step toward understanding the real purpose of wealth, and maybe, just maybe, the key to building a rich life, not just a rich bank account.